I was driving down a deserted back road in the middle of the night, trying to get to my destination before it got too late. It was pitch black outside, and the only light came from the headlights of my car. The road was bumpy, and the branches of the trees on either side seemed to reach out to me like long fingers. Suddenly, I noticed a shadowy figure on the road ahead. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. I collided with the figure, and it went flying over the top of my car. I was trembling with fear as I got out of the car, dreading what I would see. But there was nothing there, just an empty road. I looked around frantically, but there was no sign of anyone or anything. I climbed back into the car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. As I drove away from the scene, I felt a cold presence in the car. It was like someone was sitting next to me, breathing down my neck. Suddenly, the radio flickered on by itself, and a low, distorted voice filled the car. It was speaking in a language I didn't understand, a guttural and deep language that sounded ancient and ominous. I tried to turn off the radio, but it wouldn't respond to my touch. The voice got louder and more insistent, almost as if it was trying to possess me. I started to see images flashing in front of my eyes. Images of a dark, foreboding forest, with creatures lurking in the shadows. They were getting closer and closer, and I could feel their eyes watching me hungrily. I tried to focus on the road, but it was becoming harder and harder to concentrate. The car began to swerve, and I felt like I was losing control. Just as I thought it was the end, the voice on the radio stopped. The images disappeared, and the car righted itself. I pulled over and took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. As I drove away, I felt a pang of regret. I didn't know what had happened, or why it had happened, but I knew that I never wanted to experience it again. And I promised myself that I would never drive down that back road at night, ever again. I hate driving at night, let alone driving down deserted back roads. But when my car broke down on the highway, I had no choice but to take the scenic route to my destination. The darkness was suffocating, and the trees seemed to loom over me as if they could reach out and touch me at any moment. As I drove down the winding road, my headlights occasionally illuminated a deer or a raccoon scurrying across the asphalt. But as I passed one dark stretch of road, I saw a figure standing on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was just a hitchhiker, but as I got closer, I realized it was something far more sinister. The figure was tall and skinny, with elongated limbs that seemed to cling to the shadows. It had no face, just a black void where a face should be. I tried to keep my eyes on the road, but I couldn't help glancing back at the figure in my rearview mirror. It seemed to be following me, always just out of reach of my headlights. My heart pounding in my chest, I sped up, hoping to put as much distance between me and the creature as possible. But the faster I drove, the closer the thing seemed to get. As I rounded a bend in the road, I slammed on my brakes. The creature was standing in the middle of the road, blocking my way. Its limbs seemed to stretch impossibly long, like the shadows themselves were reaching out to grab me. Petrified, I couldn't move. I was trapped, staring into that black void. Suddenly, the creature let out a blood-curdling scream, and I felt something cold. I was driving down a long, winding road at night, my eyes glued to the road ahead of me. The darkness outside my car was thick, save for the occasional flicker of my headlights catching the trees along the roadside. I felt myself getting lost in thought, and my eyes began to droop. I shook my head, trying to snap out of it, but the road seemed to be going on forever. Suddenly, I heard a loud thud, and my car swerved violently to the left. I slammed on the brakes and came to a stop, my heart pounding in my chest. I stepped out of the car to find that I had hit a deer. It was still twitching on the ground, its eyes wide and panicked. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I realized how badly injured the animal was. I knew I had to put it out of its misery, but I was so shaken that I fumbled with the knife in my pocket. As I was getting ready to do what had to be done, I heard a rustling sound coming from the bushes. I froze, my heart racing as I looked around for any sign of danger. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, with a wild look in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and husky. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and my instincts screamed at me to get back in my car and drive away. But I was too dazed to act, too shocked to think straight. The man walked over to me, and I noticed that he was holding something in his hand. It was a hunting rifle, and it was pointed directly at my chest. "I need your car," he said, his eyes fixed on me. "Give me the keys." I hesitated for a moment, and then I realized how dangerous this man was. I handed him the keys and watched as he got into the driver's seat. He didn't say another word as he drove away, leaving me stranded in the middle of the road. I felt a sense of panic rising in my chest as I realized that I was alone in the middle of nowhere. I looked around for any sign of help, but all I could see was darkness. And then I heard a sound behind me. It was a soft rustling, like someone creeping through the bushes. I turned around to face the noise, my heart racing with fear. And then everything went black.